Trade talks with China have been another big driver for the markets. Let's get to Eamon Javers in Washington. He has the latest on that front. Eamon, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Becky. The president doubling down yesterday on his rhetoric about the trade war after a long weekend over the Labor Day weekend in which we saw escalation by the U.S. side, retaliation by the Chinese side. The president tweeting out this yesterday, saying that we are doing very well in our negotiations with China. He says that he's sure that China would love to wait him out and deal with another administration. But if they do, he said, if he wins, the deal will get much tougher for the Chinese. Meanwhile, he says China's supply chain will crumble and businesses, jobs, and money will be gone. Later in the day yesterday, we got that ISM manufacturing number sinking to 49.1, signaling a contraction in the manufacturing sector may be underway. We saw a response to that from Jay Timmons. He's the head of the National Association of Manufacturers, who said manufacturers have also warned that trade uncertainty would affect our industry. Here's what manufacturers need: pass the USMCA, the trade deal, turn the trade deal with trade war with China into a trade deal with China, and reauthorize the Export-Import Bank. So the manufacturers there suggesting that there's some global slowing going on, but also saying that they want to turn this trade war with China into a trade deal with China as they watch what's happening in the manufacturing sector. Guys, the political challenge now for the president, based on that ISM number from yesterday, is that the president has said the entire purpose of this trade war is to defend American manufacturing. If that's contracting anyway, the president's got to now explain to voters and to investors around the world why that's happening, even though he's taking the steps that he's taking right now to defend American manufacturing, guys.
I guess it's short-term, long-term, although we don't know what the long-term is going to be.
And the president has said again and again, in the long term, American manufacturing will be better for this. In the short term, he acknowledges there may be some pain for Americans, although he says there's going to be more for the Chinese. But he seems to be willing to tolerate that pain for now.
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg, a tail and a dog, chicken and egg. I've got a lot of them, Eamon. It's like we can't necessarily be blamed for all the economic weakness in the rest of the globe, or can we? So, you know what I mean? It's like the rest of the economies were pretty slow. They had negative interest rates. But then you layer on all the uncertainty from what we're doing in trade with both Europe and wherever and China. So maybe you can kind of point that back at the U.S. as well. I mean,
look, a lot of defenders of the administration yesterday said, well, look, this ISM number, the manufacturing, it's really due to just global slowing.
Right.
And then the critics said, well, look, the global slowing is due to the trade war. Right. So, you know, which came first? I
go back to Nixon when all this started, if you really want to know.
Okay.
Because Nixon, resigns in sort of disgrace. So we brought in Jimmy.
Disgrace.
Yeah, right.
Sort of.
What? In hindsight, seriously, I've seen worse. Okay, so Nixon is
maybe we have.
Oh yeah.
He went to China. Nixon went to China. Speaking of China.
He did a lot of good things. A lot of good things. He had a cute dog, Checkers. Okay, so then you go to Jimmy Carter, and then Jimmy Carter's, oh my God, what happened? Then you bring in Reagan, right? And then, let's not go through all this stuff. You weren't around for half of it, I don't think, even though you got that wizened gray hair. But
I'm dyeing the gray in.
Some people would say that President Obama benefited from some of the mistakes George Bush made. And then how do you explain Trump getting elected? Seriously, Eamon.
It's a really good question, Joe.
You know what? You're out. Every once in a while, I like that. Javers.
Here's the thing. What the president says about this is that he's dealing with all the legacy of all those presidents you just mentioned, right? They got us into this hole in terms of manufacturing and the industrial base and China's ascension, and didn't do anything about it for decades and decades. He says he's the president who finally has to deal with it. He joked, right? He joked. He looked up to heaven and said, I'm the chosen one. I have to deal with this. But he's serious when he talks about that. What he means is generationally, this has fallen in his lap. And it's a problem he has to deal with.
Well, it's amazing that there is still support. I think there's a majority of support for dealing with China right now.
In both parties.
Yeah, which is amazing.